In 1972, industry-renowned English singer-songwriter Lesley Duncan released her second solo album, Earth Mother, and from that release, the epic title track.
Oh, Mother, please forgive us. We've taken all you had to give, claimed it as our right to live, never thinking you had that right to.
Okay, the lyrics made available on her own website, thankfully. Oh, Mother, please forgive us. We've taken all you had to give, claimed if as our right to live, never thinking you had that right too. I guess so far what this is getting at is how, the realization that a lot of adult children have that they may have taken their parents, or in this case, their a mom for granted, not knowing, not appreciating really the sacrifices, just kind of, because that's something that children don't often understand.
We can't believe you're going. Isn't your mother always there? Always the one to really care, with no limits to her giving. And we dare turn and say stop while we're watching the snow rot. Get the life that we've all got, holding hands on you. But we're taking the wrong track, and we painted your face black, and it's so hard to turn back from it.
Now, I just love how we went through a sequence a little bit earlier of flats and sharps, and then before we came to these more like standard chords that in the chorus that kind of where the cadence just kind of went through this shift, sort of like open cadence at first, kind of mid tempo, and then it kind of sped up and swelled up and tightened. And let's see who we have got on this album. Vocals and guitar by the one and only Lesley Duncan. That's acoustic guitar. Electric guitar by, that name again, Chris Spedding. Drums and percussion by Barry Souza. And that guy had done some library music during the 1970s. Yeah, this 1976 album Wings, on Music to Wolf, I recognize that one. Bass and further acoustic guitar by Andy Bown. Not to be confused with Alan Bown of the Alan Bown set, the band leader. Andy Bown, who had been in The Herd with Peter Frampton and would later join Status Quo. And organ, piano, flute, and production arrangement by Jimmy Horowitz. Okay, more on these guys later. I'm hearing quite a bit of Elton John in like the first Elton John album in particular. She wrote a song that appeared. She co-wrote a song that appeared on Tumbleweed Connection. Yeah. Well, she wrote a lot of songs, but more on her background as a songwriter in a bit. Sumptuous acoustic guitar from Our Lady. Oh, I love just how her guitar is interacting with the arrangements of the Horowitz fellow.
But we dare turn and say stop while we're watching the slow run. Get the life that we want, got all it hands on you. But we've taken our own track and we've painted your face black, and it's so hard to turn back from it.
I don't know if the big storm is about to break loose yet, but notice how the second verse was actually all instrumental, as if she ended up saying most of what she wanted to say in that first verse. Let's pick up on the lyrics with the second half of the first verse, the second stanza. We can't believe you're going. Isn't your mother always there? Always the one to really care, with no limits to her giving. And then now the chorus. But we dart, turn, and say stop while we're watching the slow rot. Yet the life that we've got depends on you. But we've taken the wrong track, and we've painted your face black, and it's so hard to turn back from it now. I'm wondering if this is dealing with the kind of misgivings that a lot of people in her age group, baby boomers, had with their parents' generation. Because that was like one of the biggest generation gaps ever. And maybe this is like one of the early statements, like trying to give pause to the boomer rebellion against the GI generation. And or which some people like on the internet have termed the worst generation, although I don't endorse that term at all. In regards to what boomers later dubbed the greatest generation. That was something they came up with later, like in the 90s. In honor of their parents' generation. Yeah, I'm thinking this could be like an early dissenting voice in boomer rebellion toward their parents' generation. Like it's like stopping and like considering other points of view, considering all the sacrifices that their parents' generation made for them, and the lack of appreciation they may have had for that as children, because as children you kind of take the things that are given to you for granted because you don't understand concepts like work and earning money yet. Well, most children don't. There are some that are taught those things from a very early age. Well, like people, like children who grew up during the Great Depression, I think kind of maybe had more of an understanding at like before they even hit their teens, than most people would at that young age. But yeah, and like the first verse struck me as like maybe a young woman's realization that sudden realization that her mother did a lot for her, sacrificed a lot for her, and she's just now coming to appreciate that. And now the subsequent lyrics seem to deal with trying to give pause to the just maybe indignant rejection of the older generation's values that she sees among people her own age, who were still like in their young adulthood at this point in 1972. Yeah, and I think the windy ride is about to get more intense.
And still we keep destroying. Never the time to stand and view all of the greed that's killing you, who have held us through the ages.
Oh, such a beautiful sequence of like within that passage. I heard a major seventh chord at one point. I've heard several. I'm mostly hearing like in flat and sharp keys. Hearing a few like chords land on like suspended notes and then releasing them, like the sustained strings and the electric sustained licks colliding and coalescing at times.
And we dent and say stop while we're watching the slow rot. Yeah, the life that we've all got all depends on you. But we're taking the wrong track, and we've painted your face black, and it's so hard to turn back. But we're all to blame. Say stop while we're watching the slow rot. Yeah, the life that we've all got all depends on you. But we're taking the wrong track, and we've painted your face black, and it's so hard to turn back. But we're all to blame. And we didn't tell to say stop while we're watching the slow rot. Yeah, the life that we've all got all depends on you. But we're taking the wrong track, and we're painting your face black, and it's so hard to turn back. But we're all to blame. And we didn't tell to say stop while we're watching the slow rot. Yeah, the life that we've all got all depends on you. But we're taking the wrong track, and we're painting your face black, and it's so hard to turn back. But we're all to blame. But we're taking the wrong track, and we're painting your face black, and it's so hard to turn back. But we're all to blame. And we didn't tell to say stop while we're watching the slow rot. Yeah, the life that we've all got all depends on you. But we're taking the wrong track, and we're painting your face black, and it's so hard to turn back. But we're all to
You know, that ending with that explosion and it's like the earthquake almost had me wondering if Earth Mother kind of has double meaning. Like, while it's ostensibly about the prior generation and particularly mothers of the GI generation, spoken from the point of view of a boomer woman, that it may have also had to do with appreciation of the earth that people are taking for granted, you know. I love how she starts out the chorus like stern yet kind of plaintive and kind of just with a slight reserve, and that cadence, and that melody that she's in, dun 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 dun, and she goes through the entire set of lyrics in that section, and then just the storm just breaks loose, just like the dam bursts, and she's suddenly singing in this much more aggressive tone, and the whole music gets much more windy and ferocious, and it's like she can't contain the emotion anymore. It's like she really has a point to put across to people, and she just can't really be. She has to just pull out all the stops. It's just consuming her so much. And I love the way that she really emphasizes those syllables on the ack words. I'm talking, but we've taken the wrong track. And we've painted your face black. Did you notice that the way she kept on really, the punctuation she was putting on those syllables, and it's so hard to turn back. Yeah. Now the last stanza that I didn't get around to reading, but we're all to blame, but we still keep destroying. Never the time to stand in view. All of the greed that's killing you. Who have held us through the ages. That has me thinking that this could be interpreted two ways. That last line I would almost interpret as more to do with Mother Earth, like as in the planet Earth. But I still think also that this can also be taken as lyrics meant to put pause to the boomer rejection of the values of their parents, or at least to turn around and show some appreciation for what the sacrifices that their parents made. Yeah, I see it as both ways, and to stop taking advantage of the Earth's resources and polluting the Earth, and just the Western notions of waste and entitlement that people of her generation were bringing into question. So it kind of like, in some way, is a combination of the good values that the boomers were bringing into the public conscience, as well as a rejection of some of the maybe hasty and ill thought out notions that the boomers had been forwarding at that point in their development. Yeah. Lesley Duncan, Earth Mother, from her 1972 album of the same name. And let's see, an exploration of some of the other people that we heard on this album. Jimmy Horowitz. I was thinking, do I recognize that name more than I do offhand? Let's see, vocals on the first Strider album. Instruments and performance on Linda Lewis's first album, and some of the people we saw on this record. Andy Bown, and let's see, later on, Tim Hardin, Rod Stewart's Night on the Town. Conducting and leading would be the most interesting. Oh, a lot of like English pop from the time period, more kind of like, it looks like kind of like some stuff in the Eurovision vein from the period. Let's go over to Lesley Duncan. Yeah, I want to talk a bit more about her credits. She co-wrote "Love Song," which with Elton John, which appeared on Tumbleweed Connection, and she also did a version of on her first solo album. And let's see, Olivia Newton-John, "Lullaby," which appeared on Olivia's "If Not For You" album. A few, Olivia would also cover "Love Song." And a bit earlier in the 1960s, she cut a few singles on like Parlophone, like heck back in the early '60s. Kind of had like a beat. Oh, I'm assuming kind of like maybe like a Dusty Springfield type earlier career, like. Um, and let's see, the Walker Brothers, and some credits on Dusty Springfield releases. Yeah, so I called it. And Madeline Bell. Anyway, yeah, Lesley Duncan, a very talented singer-songwriter, and who released 5 albums between 1971 and 1977. Earth Mother coming from her second album, released in 1972. Maybe not her best album from front to back, but that being, I would state as her most epic song and most moving, powerful statement of all. I was going to do another song from this album, "Queen to Your King," but I'll save that for another time because these videos have been getting pretty long, and I think with one epic song at nearly 7 minutes long that had a lot to examine, both lyrically and musically. I think this has gone on long enough for this installment anyway. For more rubies and sapphires from the catalog of Lesley Duncan, see the directory of albums by English L artists, linked in the description below, for red hot tracks and tasty purples from this album, the one before it, and 3 albums after it. Like and subscribe and follow me on social media, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about this song, the arrangement, the instrumentation, the layers, and how the orchestra and kind of folk rock arrangements interwove with one another, the vocals, the impassioned delivery of Our Lady here, Lesley Duncan. And I guess most importantly, the lyrics, the impressions you had about the different stanzas and what they meant or how they resonated with you. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most air travel trimaximalist, signing off.